because creative entrepreneurs are some of those that can come up with the solutions that our societies are looking for, both city governments and also regional authorities or state authorities, but also companies. So these creative entrepreneurs that are maybe not that good at selling their skills, their creative competences, nor finding investors to expand their business, to go international and all that, they're really a gem, a resource for innovation in our societies, and that's why it's worthwhile to do something about it. Focusing on creative entrepreneurship is good. We've focused in the past on ICT and medtech and cleantech, and I think the future is very much about cross-sector innovation where different sectors can enrich each other. In the Creative Business Cup that I represent, we've seen winners from the last couple of years where it's textile designers from Croatia that meet the medtech industry and makes a teddy bear that can watch out for your child when it's sick. We see Austrians making an iPad for the blind people. So we see these creatives come up with great ideas that are not just entertainment or clothes or whatever. We need that too, but it's actually things that we need in society. I think the creative always wanted to make a difference in society, either artist that wants to comment on society or change society, and creative wants to come up with new ideas for whatever it is. So I think that was always there, and maybe we have for the past couple of decades been locking the creatives into this public support systems that in some countries, just as Denmark, getting public support is a sign of quality, and it's a stamp of that you're good, not necessarily that you're a commercial success, which is a bit strange. It should and could be both. So I think the creatives have always been ready, but maybe it's more the power structures or the structures of society that have pushed them into a situation where it's apply for public money and then you're happy. And now I think the creatives are looking at, well, also because public money is becoming scarce, and one of the places where governments are saving is on the arts budget, but saying, well, we can actually create a museum that's fully commercial, like Fotografiska Museum in Stockholm. It is possible to actually come up with business models that are fully commercial without any compromise on the artistic value or what you want to achieve. I think all things equal, we're small countries, all of us, Denmark, Estonia, Iceland, etc. It's a small sphere, but we have been able to actually produce something that everyone knows about. Whether it's my family on Hawaii, they've heard about IKEA and H&M, they know about Bjork, they know Danish design and Swedish pop, etc. So we have been able, even though we're a small region, to put our mark on popular culture, but also on the more established elitist culture, I would say, with both in movies and in music and fashion, etc. So that's one thing I think that people are looking at. What are they doing differently? The Nordics, the Baltics and the Nordics. And I think, what are we doing differently? We have very little hierarchy, usually in our organizations. I think we have organizations that are conducive for letting creatives be creative. We are not very we challenge authority often, and that's, I think, is good for good for a creative person to thrive and to live. We're not the Salvador Dali, Picasso type. We're not going to have that kind of creatives here. Well, some maybe, but we are more the introvert that becomes extrovert in the summer. Mm-hmm. I think we're extremely good at telling stories. No matter what country you're from, we're good storytellers. The Icelandic authors, the Norwegian, Swedish, Baltic authors, whether that has something to do with our culture and our weather, I don't know. We're very good at anything that's, it sounds a bit superficial, but surface. We're very good with the tactile, the wood, the ceramics, the the pottery. We're very good with things that where we take nature and conquer nature, you could say. So when we look at many of the successful companies today, it's it's in furniture and it's in textiles and many of these non-verbal areas also, aesthetics and design, architecture. I think that's where we have some of our strengths. Because Estonia leapfrogs every time. Estonia was one of the first countries to put culture and creative industries into their regional programs. Estonia made entrepreneurship training online and digital. You're a relatively small country with only 1.5 million people, so you could have said, well, we don't have to do it online and digital, but you did. And you also, as the first country, had established the electronic citizenship, which I think many countries will do in the future. So you're the lead and you leapfrog into the future in many ways. Maybe that's because you have visionary leaders, or you have a situation where you can do this. You realize that you can sit in a cafe somewhere in Tel Aviv, I think it was, and vote at the national elections in Estonia as a citizen. You can actually you are good at making technological developments and developments in general at the service of the citizens, not to the detriment of citizen involvement. It doesn't estrange them, it involves them. The reason why I'm doing this and why I'm doing Creative Business Cup is it's difficult to find one person, but it is when I see people succeed, when I see Gigi Blocks from Latvia up on stage during Creative Business Cup with tears in their eyes almost, ready to receive the second prize and achieving things that they didn't think themselves they could achieve just a couple of months earlier. So for me, the startups gives me, it turns my crank, it makes me excited. Actually, it's an excellent question, and I actually cheat in this area because I call it Creative Business Cup. But I would say any entrepreneur is welcome. And I have also been now and then been contacted by Danish startups saying, well, what is this? We should be eligible. And I said, well, you are. Some of them are saying, well, we're an ICT startup. And I was like, ICT startup, a tech startup, they're everywhere. Even my dentist uses tech to make sure that I show up. And so I'm saying that's something that runs through all of them, whether it's Teddy the Guardian in Croatia, it's a technical solution at the end of the day, but it had to be some creatives that thought of it. So what at the surface, this is about entrepreneurs from certain sectors, fashion, music, movies, gaming, etc., and that's what we focus on. But we are just as focused on how can they contribute to other sectors. This year we're launching a FinTech challenge. So how can the financial sector, 20 years or 10 years, we might not have banks anymore because why have a bank when you're not getting any interest rate? You might just place your money somewhere else, and those services that banks provide, others can provide. So we're going to make a challenge where creatives, designers can come up with solutions for the banking sector. How can they differentiate? How can they offer the services that people want? And that is, I think, is a good example of something that people would say, well, some people have approached me and say, that's too far, designers and creatives and artists and bankers. I said, well, no, let's see how these two sectors can come up with great solutions. How can we disrupt the banks, or how can the banks be part of their own disruption? And I think that's what it's about. They should expect something that's very precise and tailor-made. It's not a general course on culture and creative industries. This course that we're doing, the launch, is about designing creative ecosystems, which is really something important. You know, we have seen the European Union ECIA report that focus on ecosystems and clusters, and you know, how can we build around clusters business support for culture and creative startups. And it's not that easy, but there are some people who have gone before and done some great stuff, and I think we can learn from these people, and I think you can get that out of the Creative Entrepreneurship Academy. You can get tools on how you can design and build and create your creative ecosystem.